92.6. Now it's time for Tim Boatswain, President of St Albans Civic Society, to join us for his monthly roundup here on Mix Mornings. And I spoke to Tim last night, and we were talking about planning news in the area. Tim explained there's an awful lot going on.
Since we last spoke, lots of things have been happening.
Yes, so let's start with one that we've mentioned before, Chiswell Green. What's going on there with the developments there?
Oh, Chiswell Green, you might remember Ragged Hall Lane. There was an application to put in 53 dwellings. The council refused the application, and it then went to appeal. And there was going to be an appeal with the inspector, but that's now been postponed. So we're not quite sure what's going to happen.
All right. We don't know why it was postponed. Just put off for administrative reasons or something, was it?
Yes, I don't know. I haven't been able to read up why it was postponed, but it has just been postponed. Yeah.
All right. So Telford Court in St Albans. When we last spoke last month, we had thought that was going to come down this year, but I gather that's not the case.
No, interestingly, which shows that we do have some listeners in the council. The council contacted me to say there were no plans to demolish it in 2024, and that a journalist had misunderstood the council leader's comments on this, and they would certainly not have any plans in place until they've resettled all the residents there.
Okay, so it's not going to happen this year, maybe not next year, but certainly not until everybody has got a home. I guess that makes an awful lot of sense, and that might take a while, mightn't it? Because we're not exactly flush with social housing in common with most areas of the UK, are we?
I think that's right, Nick, and obviously I think the council contacted me was to just allay fears that people were going to be thrown out onto the street if they hadn't got somewhere to go.
It is going to be an interesting one to follow, though, because once it is ready for demolition, of course, there's got to be a plan for the site. It's going to be interesting to see what that is, isn't it? Now, shops and offices being turned into homes. This was is a big government announcement this week, isn't it? So how do you think that might affect us locally?
That's interesting, yes. The government had made it easier, what's called permitted development, to turn offices, shops into residential, and Michael Gove has now made another announcement saying that he's going to even extend the law further so that it will be even easier. And I think what he's probably referring to, that is not mentioned exactly, is this slightly arcane Article 4, which allows councils to designate areas where they have to, that anybody who wants to develop them has to get permission to do so. And I think he's just going to override that and say councils will no longer have that power. But I'm speculating here, Nick, but I think it's probably a fairly safe bet.
Okay, well, we've had a lot of offices in particular, haven't we, turned into residential dwellings over the last 5 or 6 years in the area, haven't we? And we can just expect more then.
I think that's the case, where there are empty offices. And, of course, it's an incentive because in terms of profit, residential will always be better than office space or retail.
All right, and finally in this segment on planning, Colney Heath, there's news there as well.
Yes, that is good news for those who want to protect the green belt. You may remember, I think we talked about it some time ago last year, there was an application in for 150 houses in Colney Heath on Tollgate Road, and that was thrown out by the City and District Council, and it went to appeal, and the inspector now has said that because of the green belt, essentially, that he stands by the District Council's decision and has rejected the appeal. So that is good news.
It's interesting, isn't it, that the weight is being given to the green belt, because we've heard a lot about, no, look, we're going to have to. Some of the green belt is sort of not green belt, really, is it? And we need to build on it. So interesting that a planning inspector has let the green belt trump the plans.
It is interesting, and in his argument, it's quite interesting because it's almost contradictory. But what he did say was, market and affordable housing attracts the highest level of weight of any consideration. But in this particular case, access is more important. So that's quite interesting, and it almost reverses. Well, that may be too strong, but it certainly goes against the decision that the inspector made, you may remember, with the Bullens Green development, which is sort of similar area.
St Albans Civic Society President Tim Boatswain, he'll be back with us shortly. We're talking fly tipping and the County Council's budget deficit. That's coming up with Tim in a little bit. Time now is... Now we're talking to Tim Boatswain, President of St Albans Civic Society. We're going to be up in St Peter Street a bit later for the pancake race, and St Peter Street hosts the Charter Market, of course, every Saturday and Wednesday. And I was talking to Tim, and he had some good news about the Charter Market.
You may remember the Charter Market has been very controversial, particularly because of the gazebos and not returning to the and so on and so forth. So it's been a bit of a political hot potato. Anyway, the Charter Market itself has risen above all that and has been designated the best large outdoor market in Britain. So well done to them.
Oh, well done, the Charter Market. Who runs that kind of judging?
Well, it's the National Association of British Markets, and they give various awards to different types of markets. So there are all sorts of different ones. So you're not having all markets having to compete against each other, because obviously some are big, some are small, some are indoor or outdoor, and so on. But anyway, well done, St Albans. I think it's a wonderful Charter Market going strong.
Yeah, that's great. And now fly tipping, a terrible problem in all areas, I suppose. But some new news on that from the council.
Yes, you may remember there was a rather scandalous story of fly tipping, and someone got fined £7,000. Anyway, fly tipping has become a real problem, and the council are toughening up, and they're going to increase the penalty, the maximum penalty, to £1,000. So they're hoping this will discourage the fly tipping, because it is a real nuisance.
When you consider that some of these are commercial businesses, £1,000 might not be very much, might it? I don't know. It might discourage the kind of casual fly tipper, if you want to call it. But some of these house clearance businesses and things just get paid money and then they go and tip it in a hedgerow somewhere, don't they?
Yes, well, because this is the fixed penalty, and they can, of course, go outside the fixed penalty if it's a really serious case, which is what happened with that previous, actually a contractor dumping stuff.
Yeah, true enough. Right, so maybe a little bit less fly tipping, let's hope so. Now, Oaklands College closed a right-of-way for a while, didn't they, for construction work, but it's still closed.
Yes, they've asked for an extension, and this has got up the noses of quite a few people who want to use that right-of-way, which sort of takes you across from Hatfield Road and to Sandpit Lane, and particularly the cyclists have got very angry about it, and there's quite a bit of a spat going on over that access, that right of way. So it'll be interesting that you have to go to the Secretary of State to actually have that right of way closed. So the college have done that. We wait to see whether it'll be refused or accepted.
Interesting. So does the Secretary of State take into account comments from other people? I assume so.
I believe so.
Okay, well, that'll be interesting. We'll watch that and see where that goes. Now, University of Hertfordshire having its degree ceremony, but there's been a bit of controversy about possible damage, hasn't there, as a result to the Abbey grounds?
Yes, it has caused a bit of a rumpus. Obviously, the Abbey Orchard, where it's a very nice place for the university to have their degree ceremony. I'm sure it's very helpful with regard to the cathedral funding. But a huge lorry was going through the Abbey Gateway, absolutely massive lorry. It got stuck, it's got sort of jammed there in some ways, not actually stuck, but it stopped the traffic. And then all the scaffolding and planking and everything was unloaded, and then local residents were concerned about the Abbey Mill Lane wall being damaged as well by it. So it's caused a bit of a rumpus, and not welcomed by the local residents, and real concerns that obviously the Abbey Gateway, a wonderful piece of heritage, could possibly get damaged.
Not probably damaged this time, is that what we're thinking? But thinking about whether there should be restrictions on things that go through there?
Yes, I don't think, as far as I'm aware, no damage is actually being reported. It did
Right.
block the traffic. It did block the traffic, so people who lived down Abbey Lane were pretty annoyed because they couldn't get out.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, Hertfordshire County Council isn't going to find some money down the back of the sofa to fill their budget shortfall for next year, are they? 15.7 million.
Yes, not good. And we've been reporting, I mean, people will know if they follow the national news that all local authorities are in real trouble. And we know that our own city and district council are 2.4 million, I think, with a budget gap. So they're going to be, well, we're going to see redundancies, we're going to see cuts. It's inevitable.
It doesn't really feel like services are functioning that well even now, so it's difficult to contemplate, isn't it? The further reductions in services. There's only so much you can cut, I guess.
That's right, and it's become a bit of a political spat. The local MP, Daisy Cooper, asked a question in Parliament and received a rather sort of weird answer, which was clearly aimed at St Albans and quite political, which was, if you stop doing awareness courses on diversity and so on, you could put that money somewhere else, was the response. Not welcomed by many
Pretty
people.
unlikely, I guess, that the county council spending 15.7 million on diversity, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, think obviously Daisy Cooper was asking with regard, I think, more to St Albans.
St Albans, yeah, okay.
But it's a general problem up and down the country, and we've seen councils, and we've talked about this before, having to issue Section 104s, and because they're just running out of money. Birmingham is in a terrible state, but that's no help to us here in St Albans or Hertfordshire.
Tim Boatswain, President of St Albans Civic Society. Tim will be back with us next month with more on heritage and planning and all the like in our area. Coming up with